Hey everyone, thank you so much for jumping back in here today. Right now, we're going to dive into a whole different topic all about fees and proposals. And this is pretty much how you should start working with the client. We did just come off of trip enhancements, which is all about the excursions, all about the insurance, all about those added pieces that you can add to an itinerary and everything. But this is kind of when you start talking with a client and really where to go from there. So we're very fortunate to bring on Bird Berger on today. So Bird, I'm going to pass it on over to you. Please introduce yourself, your agency, and kind of give us a little history about where you were, where you started, and how you got into the industry too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Steven said, I am Bird. I am the co founder of Sava Travel. We are a newer host agency that is all focused on admin support for our advisors because, let's be honest, I could use more support in every aspect of my life. We've been super excited, but I have been in the industry for about 6 years and I have a separate travel agency that I started right about 3 months before the pandemic hit. So lovely timing, killed it. But I will say the story has a very happy, not ending, but middle ground, maybe we'll say. This year they'll do about 20 million. So we're excited about that agency and the growth we've seen. And Stephen, you and I have talked about it. I believe the growth is because of the way they do their proposal process. I really think that's been our big differentiator over the years.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I'm really glad that you were able to make the time to jump on here with us, Bird, because I know you've kind of built your entire business all around the perfect consultation, the perfect proposal, and we even built the resource that we have over at TARC, which is our proven process, which really is a full step-by-step guide on how to start with a client all the way through the proposal and everything else. So we will be giving away one complimentary our proven process resource for anybody at this expo here that is attending live. However, what I really want to kind of dive into is Bird, let's talk first about the fees. When it comes to fees, there's a lot of travel advisors that kind of feel uncomfortable, even experienced ones and whatnot. Why would you say that most advisors feel uncomfortable with the fee conversation?
Oh, because it's awkward. Nobody wants to talk about money. I just did a podcast and we were talking about fees and it was funny because I mentioned a little anecdote. When I first started in the industry, I purchased a Dream Vacations franchise. And part of their franchise was they had built in for every sale that you had, they built in a $25 fee. And I just kind of giggled about it because I was like, look, if I'm going to feel uncomfortable, I'm going to make more than $25 doing it. Like I need the fee to be more. But I'll tell you, I coach my people not to pitch a fee for about 6 months as they get into the industry. And I think that I really do that because I want them to get burned a couple times. I think if you get your handed to you and you get really frustrated, that first time you go to pitch a fee, you just have all this confidence built up and you're like, I am worth it. And it could be low. Like, you don't need to pitch $350 to start off, like I start off at 99. I think 25 is too low. Again, I'm not going to be uncomfortable for 25 bucks.
No, I totally get it. And I think it's actually funny that you brought up having kind of the franchise model and everything because we know there's so many different ways to get into this industry. And when you're talking a franchise, you're talking about a system suite that is already pre-built for you. You're kind of getting a turnkey operation in a lot of ways. So I do feel like having all of that behind you makes advisors feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more professional when it comes to charging fees because they're like, listen, I'm paying for these fees, I'm paying for this technology, I have these systems set up. This is why I need to charge you as a client and all of that. But do you think that it comes down to kind of a confidence versus a cost thing when it comes down to fees?
I think a lot of times it does. Let's be realistic. We all know the reasons you should charge fees, and I'm sure we'll dive a little bit deeper into that, but you don't want to just continuously have people walk all over you. And I think the reality is that a fee is a really good way to say, I'm a real professional. I take this very seriously. But also, I need you to agree that I'm a real professional and I need you to take me seriously, client. And at the end of the day, even if it's a $99 fee, I think it changes the mindset of the client and what that relationship becomes. So I don't want to say that everybody that doesn't charge a fee has a confidence issue. Some people will get out there and say, like, oh, we're not supposed to charge fees and it's better not to. And that's their differentiator they feel like in the market. But I'm going to tell you, if you want to stop the tire kickers, there's one very easy way to do that.
That is so true. And I think that's kind of where the fee really kind of came from, especially during the last 5 years and everything. I know a lot of advisors started moving more into the fee space just because they were doing a lot of work. They were spinning their wheels. They were sending quotes out. People were going and booking on their own. And similar to what you said, I know you said that you like to have your advisors and your team kind of start with a 6 month period of no fees and try to get that feeling of what it's like to kind of sometimes unfortunately be burned. And it sounds a little harsh, but I do feel like it's almost like a rite of passage that a lot of advisors go through that after they get burned a few times, they're like, I am done feeling this. I do not want to do that anymore. Moving forward, I'm going to be X. And I'm glad that you kind of brought up like that 350, 99, 25. The reality is everybody has a different fee and a different structure of how to charge their fee and all of that. And the truth is, a lot of advisors feel like I'm earning the commission, so why should I be charging the fee? What would you say to that kind of mentality also?
Oh, I love that. I mean, I think it's really simple. The commission that we earn is not necessarily always worth the time we put into it. And while 10% commission's fine, and some will argue, well, we make 16% on river cruises. Well, we know there's a lot more that goes into the pre and post that we're not making 16% on, right? So I think the fee is just a really good way to, again, that's not, let me back up. I would not say the fee is part of your commission. I would say the fee is part of a mindset shift. Your commission can be your commission. I'm going to add on commission to a trip either way. And I think the reality is whatever I charge for a fee doesn't necessarily impact what I add on at the end of the day or what I'm making directly from the vendor. It's more about respect and making sure that you honor my time the way it needs to be.
That perfectly makes sense. And I'm glad that you're bringing up the add-on of the fee at the back end or increasing the commission, all that, because I know that is kind of a, I don't want to say standard practice, but it is a possibility when you are dealing with FIT or kind of those land-based vacations where you're customizing things and building it out. For those of you guys who are watching that are more in the cruise section, I understand that cruise lines do not really allow us to have any kind of markups on our fees or commissions and all of that. The way that we do it at our agency is we created what we call a non-refundable research and design fee. So what that does is it instantly tells the client that you are paying this fee for the research and the itinerary design that we do way before we even book the actual trip. So the commission that's incorporated in the trip or which suppliers we work with or anything like that, that is totally separate from the actual fee that you are paying me from the front. Bird, what's your thought process on that as far as like, how do you title your fee? What do you think makes the most sense in that regard?
We have the exact same title. And the thing I love most about it is that non refundable part. You know, we really dove deep into the conversation in my agency of are we going to do a plan to go fee? Now, plan to go fee, if you're not familiar, is basically pay me $100 to plan the trip. And if you book it with me, I'll put that $100 towards the cost of the trip. You know, I'm going to back up again. The whole point of a fee is to change the mindset of your client into a more professional relationship. Well, if I'm basically telling you it's not a real fee, that I'm going to apply it to the cost of your trip, I don't know that that is strong enough to change that relationship and that mindset. I think instead that that plan to go is kind of a cop out in a way because you're saying, you know, I'm a little nervous to charge an actual fee, especially non-refundable and like really laying down the laws and setting boundaries with my clients. So I'm going to go in with a soft pitch. What I would challenge you to do instead of going in with a soft pitch and saying plan to go and I'm going to apply it to your trip, because what has to happen in all of those scenarios is you have to have a different accounting set up on the back end. That plan to go fee has to legally be put into an escrow account. Then you need to have a document that's tracking all the money in the escrow account. And then when you apply it towards your trip, it's a pain in the neck when it comes to accounting. And if you're not doing that, you're doing it illegally, right? So instead of doing that, pitch the fee, but pitch it at a lower rate. So you still feel like a little bit of a softball. It doesn't feel very hard to say, hey, this is a $50 fee or even 25 if that's where you need to start. And then you can move it up as you feel more comfortable or as the trip demands. Let's be honest, you know, Royal Caribbean 3-day cruise might really take you 2 seconds to do, pitch a $25 fee. But a 2-week across Japan may take you, you know, a whole day to put together. If that's the reality, your fee structure should change accordingly. And I would always say, just kind of wait until the moment comes. We'll probably talk about when to pitch it, but I love to wait until the moment comes. And then just in my head, as I go to pitch a number, I just add $50. It's just like, let me just swing just a little bit for the fences here and see if they go for it. And I'll tell you, most consumers nowadays expect fees. I don't, very rarely is someone like surprised by that in any way.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of it is, I mean, I like how you're touching on the different ideas of what types of fees are out there, how to fee, how to get to that kind of confidence level and all of that stuff. But let me take it back just a second and kind of touch on a couple different things that you were talking about. Number one is the types of fees. So there is, like we mentioned, the non-refundable research and design fee. That is basically money that you take, you put into your pocket. It has nothing to do with the trip, has nothing to do with the clients. That is something that you are keeping as an advisor. The other one is, like Bird mentioned, a plan to go fee. This is basically something where you are taking money up front. It is not a refundable deposit, but it is a deposit of sorts, where if they go on the trip, you're going to then account for that onto their trip as an additional payment or deposit or otherwise. The other ones that we have are retainers. With retainers, the way they work out is it's a money that you take up front. Like Bird mentioned, you should put it into an escrow or something like that. Think of it kind of like an attorney. You take the money up front, you hold it, you do the work. Once you get paid for your work, which is the commission, you refund back that retainer. Again, you're dealing with a lot of accounting. You need to make sure that you are having money in, money out, make sure it's separated from your operating account. There's a lot of moving pieces to do with that. So personally, I kind of like start with the non-refundable fee. And if you're really truly uncomfortable with it, start with a lower number. I mean, Bird's talking 99, 350, 25 plus a 50, all of these different numbers, but you got to go with what you're comfortable with. And if what you're comfortable with starting out is only 25 bucks, start there, because I think once you really start doing that, you'll gain that confidence. Now, let's talk about that confidence, Bird. Right now in our industry, I see it all the time on Facebook groups. I see it with people promoting and all of that. They're like, you can work with me for free. Now, the reality is, we say that it's for free, but we actually are the ones doing the work. We are the ones tying up our time, doing all of this stuff. And yes, we do get paid the commission. How would you say for advisors to put themselves in the right mentality? What would you say for them to believe internally that they are worth that fee, especially if they're transitioning from free to fee? What would you say to them?
Oh, I always find it so funny when advisors advertise you could work with me for free. I think what they're trying to do is build that book of business in the beginning, and it's a little bit of I'll take anything that comes at me, but we all know kind of the proven track record in the end is to find something to focus on that you can really grow and blossom and flourish in versus just doing everything. You know, if you have a lead that's coming in for a trip to Montana and then you have one coming in for Italy and then the very next day one comes in from Thailand, it's really hard to truly be the expert in all of these different destinations. So I think instead of advertising I'm for free, you could advertise that it costs money to work with me because I'm a professional and I take this seriously and I do this full time and here's all my accreditations. And those type of conversations are what's going to build trust within your network. Hey, work with me for free is probably going to attract more and more of the tire kickers that you don't want, right? Instead, take the time and say, this is how much it costs to work with me, or I'm running a special this month. You know, I have space in my calendar, so it's only going to cost $50 to work with me, but the consultation's free. Let's just talk about your trip. And at the very least, I'm going to give you advice on what to do on your own. Like, I think that kind of spin on things can help you feel confident and get people in the door, but it gives you the chance to prove that you're worth the money. And let's be honest, if you have someone planning a $10,000 trip, do they really care about $100? Like, does that make any kind of difference? Not usually. And then when you're talking higher price points, I'm telling you that I believe that people that are planning a 20, 30, $40,000 vacation, they want to pay the fee. They want to know that you are a professional and you're truly putting your time and effort and doing this. They're expecting the fee. So if you have a really high budget, you don't pitch a fee, there's a good chance they're going to start questioning kind of how you operate and that sort of thing. So I think it's worth it just thinking like, again, the way the mindset shifts in the client. If you're working with mostly super cheap clients and you're doing a lot of Carnival cruises and you're doing a lot of super cheap Mexico vacations, well, that's a whole different world and they may accept or reject fees in a different manner. So you need to think about your client a little bit, but even if it's not a $200 fee, I think something just helps them take you more seriously at the end of the day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And actually, I really appreciate how you kind of line that all up. So, to be honest with you, when it comes to fees, like you mentioned, somebody going on maybe a 3 night Carnival cruise or a 3 night Bahamas cruise or something like that may not be like, okay, I'll spend $200 because the price of the cruise might only have been $1,000. And when you're talking a 20% fee, that's a semi drastic fee. However, let me reverse that because I do know a lot of advisors that are like, listen, I book a certain type of trips from most of my clients. Sometimes they ask for this. And I tell them up front that there will be this fee because on that maybe $500 to $1,000 cruise, I'm only making $30 to $50 possibly. And for the amount of time that you have to spend as far as like booking the trip, talking about excursions, talking about drink packages, what these cruise ports are like, all of these different things, it really is a lot of time for the money that you're earning. And this is where the fee really kind of comes from. Now, going back to like what we were talking about with that free to fee model, if you're uncomfortable, what I always tell people is go into the conversation with the fee, but waive the fee for your client if you're not comfortable actually charging it up front. And what that does is it tells your client that normally I do charge a fee for my vacations. However, for this first trip for you guys, or maybe as a referral from XYZ, whatever it is that you need to kind of build off of, you can build a relationship with the kind of pretense that I do normally charge a fee. But for this particular vacation, I'm going to waive it. It gets your client in the mindset of, first of all, you're focused more on the relationship than the dollar. But second of all, I know if I contact you again, I may have to actually pay a fee. And what I like doing with that is because if they were a first time referral or there's somebody going on a quick Bahamas cruise like we're talking about or something like that, next time they contact me for that 2 week trip to Italy, when I do come up with $100 per person fee, then they'll be like, okay, I totally get it. I understand you waived it for the first one. I understand the complexities of this one. But I do want to add a caveat in there that just because you're doing a 1 to 2 week trip to Italy doesn't mean you're spending less time on that Bahamas cruise. And so that's kind of where this whole entire conversation about fees really comes about. So the next question I have for you, Bird, is when we're talking about fees, other than the clear idea of like, okay, it may stop a tire kicker, what else, like, what are the other benefits of charging a fee? What does that do for the advisor?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people kind of push back, especially when I tell them to start low. They're like, but really, like, is it really worth it at the end of the day? And I think it's interesting. If you start to track it, you'll be surprised by how quickly these fees will add up. So I have an advisor this year. This is now her fourth year in the business. She did over 200,000 in commission this year, which is amazing. And what she did was she charged a $300 fee, but take it for what it is. She charged a $300 fee every single trip. I swear this woman would charge her mama fee. Like every trip, no matter what. She was so consistent and so very deeply believed her value that rarely did clients not pay the fee. And all of her repeats came back eager to pay the fee, right? They're like, I know you're worth $300. Let's go crazy. And at the end of the year, she was kind of like, yeah, but it was only $300. Like, how much did that really add up to? And I just pulled her numbers last week. This woman charged over $20,000 in fees. 10% of her business came from fees. And it was just a matter of the consistency of the not waiving, of the standing her ground at each and every time. And I think it makes a really big difference. So that's not my average advisor. You know, my average advisor, though, is still making like 5 grand a year off of fees. And the reality is like, wouldn't you like another 5 grand in your pocket? And you're not doing anything different. You don't have to work harder for it. You don't have to be more stressed, no longer hours. You're doing the exact same work, but you're getting 5 grand more. Wouldn't you want that?
I mean, I know I would, but I guess I would say too, outside of kind of like what we're talking about, the increase in fees, the increase in dollars in your pocket, all of that, it also comes down to time and energy and really the growth potential. I mean, you're talking same level of work, more money. I mean, I think that's kind of the whole crux of our business is like, how can we work less or at least the same level, but earn more? And fees truly are a great way to do that, but it also kind of helps protect that time from like burnout, all of these things. Like, I can't tell you the biggest times I feel like I'm hitting burnout is when I feel like I am working for more than I am worth. And that is the problem that I have is when I'm like, you know what? I really love helping my clients. I really want to help give them these itinerary options. I want to give them all these different things to check out and all that stuff. But when I get burned by a client and they actually take my itinerary and go book it on their own, that is when I start feeling my burnout because I'm like, what did I just spend all of this time doing this for? It wasn't worth it. So those for me are kind of the biggest things. Now I know again we're kind of throwing around all of these numbers and stuff like that, or like the 99s, 300s, 25s, all of that stuff. How do you really recommend for newer advisors or existing advisors who are veterans and been doing this for a while, how do you actually recommend that they find a number that makes sense for them and their business and doesn't feel like they just randomly pull numbers out of a hat?
You are randomly pulling numbers out of a hat a little bit. Okay, so I like to have two separate numbers. You have one for your Caribbean, and because those trips are different and they don't take the same amount of time. And then you have one for anything else. A 2-week trip across Europe takes a lot more time than an all-inclusive in the Caribbean. So I think you have two kind of price points. Obviously, anywhere outside the Caribbean should be a little bit higher, but it's up to you where you feel comfortable. So if you want to start at 25 versus 99 or 50 versus 150, whatever that looks like, go crazy. It's really you personally looking in a mirror and saying, I'm worth this. This is how much I am worth to work on this trip. Now, I will tell you, as somebody that my agency does almost all FIT work, and we specialize in Europe. So we're usually built, an average trip for us is going to have 15 different bookings to it. It's a bit of a nightmare, but we make the most commission that way. But that being said, it's very common for us to add on commission, right? Because we're booking net rates for a lot of these things. So I often get a little pushback of like, why not just add on the commission on the back end? And I think it's a layer of protection that is necessary on the front end. So if you were going to add on $1,000 to a trip, you're not pitching $1,000 fee. You're pitching $100 fee or whatever it looks like, and you're still adding on the commission that you feel like is appropriate on the back end. So we target a total of 15% commission. That's what my agency is always done. So that's what we target. And that is a combination of the fee that is pitched and the total commission on the back. So what we're doing is kind of just guesstimating in our heads around what that looks like. And I like to keep the fee. I'm going to also just 2 seconds throw this in. Keep it low. There's no reason you need to charge a $700 or $1,000 fee. I think that's going to start getting business turned away more than anything. And yes, while some people may be like, wow, she's a real professional, she's worth $700. I think in that very same breath, you're limiting the amount of people you're going to work with pretty extensively, right? I think people get really hesitant about a really big upfront purchase, whereas $200 is still a lot of money and it's going to get their commitment, but you're not going to run people off. So find kind of the sweet spot for you and your market that you're not going to run them off, but it's enough to feel like it hurts a little bit if they walk away.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm glad that you actually even brought up that high of a number because I do have some friends and colleagues that are charging upwards of 500 per person, 750, 1,000 per person. And the reality is, guys, like, again, it comes down to time versus value. If you are saying to yourself that what is important to me is I find the aligned people that are willing to spend $1,000 up front because I'm only booking 20 trips a year and I'm totally fine with that because this is the specific client I'm looking for, do that. Now, what Bird's talking about here, she's talking about potentiality and scaling and growing and all that kind of stuff is when you chase people off with these high entry gateways, typically they don't want to pay it unless they are like, you know what, I don't care. I need you. You are the expert. I am willing to spend this. Maybe they're going on a week-long trip and it's going to be $100,000. 750 to something like that is a totally different thing than going to Italy for a week on a $10,000 budget where a $250 purchase is more realistic. I know for us, we always kind of listen to what the client is going to look like. Like I mentioned, it is almost like pulling things out of a hat. You are absolutely right too, Bird. But what we normally do is we kind of have a baseline. So I always have it in my head that I'm like, it's $100 per person on average for a 1 to 2 week trip. If it's going to be a Caribbean or something that's going to be quicker, I will tell people that we're normally 100 per person, but I'll discount it down to 50. Or maybe if it's a family, I'll do 25 per person because I'm still getting a total of maybe $150, $200 fee. I kind of judge what that is going to look like based on the trip. Now, again, if they're wanting a 2 to 4 week, we just had somebody that reached out to us that wanted to go to Europe for 3 months. And I was like, I can't justify building a 3 month package for $100 a person. It doesn't make sense for the amount of work that goes into that. So you do absolutely have to kind of figure that out as you go sometimes too.
Let's see what that 3-month budget looked like for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting conversation, but it sounds like it's going to come together well.
Oh, that's amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me ask you this, Bird. For anybody who wants to get into fees and all of that, or somebody who's starting to introduce fees and everything, what would you say is, I guess, a common mistake that you see or hear kind of happening throughout the industry?
That's so easy. I don't charge my friends and family. They don't want to charge their, Aunt Edna because it feels awkward to charge family. And I'm going to say if you have a process in place, which if you don't, that's step one, get some kind of serious process. Like, this is what my consultation looks like. This is what my proposal looks like. All of those things, right? If you have a process in place, the people that typically won't follow the process are your friends and family because they're like, I'm just going to text you some dates and I want you to text me back some options. That is the most frustrating thing. And it's a great way to not close a deal at the end of the day, right? It's a great way to lose a client. So I think the reality of, okay, I'm only going to charge brand new people that I don't know, or I'm only going to charge referrals, or I'm never going to charge repeats. I think it's just a lot easier just to say, starting January 15th, whatever the day is, I am going to charge everyone. And you can actually start the conversation with your clients just like that. Hey, so I had to put a new policy in place because I want to make sure that I respect my time. And from now on, everybody I work with, they are getting charged a fee. Look, you're a repeat client, so I'm happy to cut my fee, but I need to charge a fee in order to make sure that I'm able to continue to do this full time because this work is so important to me and I have such a dramatic passion for it. It's important to me to draw this boundary. And I think doing it towards the end of the consultation helps a lot if you're doing a live consultation because you can take that time to build up value before you pitch the fee. So the client's already like super excited to work with you. Oh my God, this person knows everything there ever was to know about cruising. Amazing. She's going to get me the best deal. I'm going to have the most incredible vacation. And then bam, hit them with the fee. And they're going to be like, I mean, yeah, that sounds like you're worth it. Perfect.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And actually, I'm glad that you tied in the friends and family thing because I didn't even think about that as far as like mistakes and everything for the delivery. But you're absolutely right. I feel like our friends and family are sometimes our biggest critic, and everybody in the industry, if you've been around for a while, will always say, stay away from your friends and family because they are sometimes your worst clients and everything. But I will say, they are also going to be your biggest referral source. So if you can ever build the confidence to fee your friends and family, you will never have a problem feeing a total stranger because they are the closest people to you. And once you feel that you have broken that professional barrier with them, you will always feel like a pro with everybody else. I would say for me, one of the biggest things that I see probably is one of the biggest mistakes when advisors are talking fees is redacting that fee. And what that usually looks like is I do charge X amount for a fee. I'll send you the information via email or whatever, and we can get the fee paid for. They don't hear from that client for 3 to 5 days and they reach out and they're like, I'm actually willing to waive my fee because I want to work with you. Guys, you need to stand firm. If you charge a fee and you told your client about a fee, stick to that fee. I have some clients that I've never charged a fee over the years, and it's just been that relationship that I built for the last 15 years. But as soon as I charge that fee, I do not redact it because the minute you do, you're telling that client that you are no longer worth that fee either. But they've already got it in their head that they're reaching out to you. They know you're charging a fee. Keep that momentum going. That is absolutely crucial here. Bird, before we dive into, I know you were mentioning the consultation, which I love because I think that's exactly the perfect place for the fee. We're talking a lot on the individual advisor basis, but let's talk for a second. If you're an experienced advisor, maybe you have a team of advisors and all of that stuff. Do you think the fee should be introduced at like an agency level, a team lead level? Is it an advisor level? Where could that work for more experienced advisors?
It really depends on how your company is set up. If you're sitting here with a bunch of independent contractors, you're legally not allowed to implement anything at all to them. If you're sitting here with W-2s, it's a very different world. I told all my W-2s January 1, this is what we do. And guess what? They have to do it because I pay their salary, and that's amazing. But my 1099s, I can't do the same thing. I have to have a very different conversation. So I think what's great for 1099s is putting something on your website to set expectations. So if you go to my website, there's an FAQ section on the front page that says, do you guys charge fees? And I put on there that we charge a non-refundable $245 fee. Do all of my ICs do that? Absolutely not. Do I want them to? Of course, but They absolutely don't for every trip. You know that I've talked them all into charging fees, but maybe not every trip. But if there's some stranger that's coming to our website, or when there's a stranger coming to our website, they are reading those FAQs and they're going into the consultation with expectations. So if you want to set something for your agency across the board, I think that's a great way to do it. And what I have done with that fairly high number, if I'm going to be honest, is I am trying to chase away the people that are trying to get the cheap Mexico trips or the Carnival cruises. That's not interesting to me. Our agency, our average trip for 2025 was at $12,000. Our average commission was at 1,800. So I'm looking for that, around $2,000 commission per trip. And I've got to be honest, if you're booking a $12,000 trip, that $250 fee probably isn't scaring you off. If you're booking a $5,000 trip, it's probably a little bit different of a story. So for us, it was also a little bit of gatekeeping we were looking to do as we continue to grow that $20 million number. I didn't want to do $20 million in sales and have like 8 bajillion trips. I preferred to have, a couple thousand to get to that number. That's a much different experience for me and for the advisors.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think that's the great thing about this industry is everybody can have a different business model. I know we are very drive market cruise focused just because that was an easy way to start here in Florida. And it was something that honestly, you kind of trip and fall over a cruise client. So it totally depends how you want to build your business. If you're sun and sand, if you're cruise, if you're Europe, FIT, safaris, bucket list trips, whatever it is, you just need to build the model to kind of fit you and your company. So I appreciate kind of bringing that up as well. I know you mentioned like a random date, like a January 15th or something like that. Do you think there is a right time to start charging fees? I know we see kind of in the entire world, people around like January 1st are like, we've got new terms and conditions and all of that stuff for the year ahead. Do you think there is a right time, either date wise or I need to sell $5 million, that advisors kind of tell themselves these myths or these ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the saying that the right time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the best second right time to plant a tree is today. So I think it truly just needs to be, this is what I'm worth and this is what I'm doing going into today. And you just need to change yourself. And you're absolutely right. It's a story we tell ourselves. I need to wait until I get to X is not necessarily true. I do recommend waiting a period of time. If you literally introduce yourself to the industry today, maybe you say for the first 6 months, I'm not going to do it. And again, my belief behind that is simply getting burned in and of itself creates your own confidence, because you're like, I can't believe that woman never texted me back. How dare she ghost me, right? This is awful. So going into the next one, you're like, all right, today's the day I'm doing it. What's going to happen is you're going to sit there and you're going to be pitching the fee, and you're going to do it with the mindset of all the times you got burned. And this is what I am worth. You either pay it or you don't. And here's how to get out from there. And I think that that's a really big deal. The other thing we didn't really talk about is using a fee as a bless and release almost in and of itself. If you find something you really don't want to do, there's no reason not to pitch a crazy high fee to get out of it. We had somebody reach out just the other day and they wanted us to book airline tickets in the US. They wanted us to book 75 of them. They're first class, so we could make some money, but it was still domestic. And I was like, this just sounds like a nightmare I don't want to deal with, if I'm going to be very honest. We don't do a lot of air only. We don't use a GDS. We're a very I'm a millennial. Let's be honest. Like, I'm going to do the easiest way to get there. And the reality was, we turned around and pitched that company a $75 fee per person. And it was over $5,000 in fees for these flights they wanted. And they're like, okay. I was like, well, shit, for $5,000, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but had he walked away, no skin off my back, I didn't want to do it anyway. So you can also use the fee as a little bit of a like, do I want to do that? And use it like that.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was just talking to a friend actually the other day, and she kind of said the exact same thing. She's like, I quoted this client over the last year, 3 different trips, and they never ended up booking anything. It's not even like she took the stuff and went and shopped it and booked it herself. It was just they didn't end up booking. So finally, this client reached back out and was like, I'm thinking about this for the next one. And she was like, great, here's my $100 fee. Once you pay this, I'll get started on this vacation. And she literally was like, great, for all the work that you've done, thank you so much. This totally makes sense. Here's $100. And at first she was like, okay, cool. I'm glad I got the $100. But on the flip side, sometimes you're like, damn, did I really want that? Should I have said 500? I don't know. So no, it's absolutely correct that sometimes you can just add that in there. So, all right, let's move from kind of fees, why fee, all of that stuff into how do you explain the fee? I know you mentioned that you have sometimes on your website in an FAQ section, some people put it in the inquiry like sign up for your consultation, we do charge X, or sign up for your consultation, we do charge X for the actual trip planning, but the consultation is free. Some people do it during consultation. What's your take on all of that?
All right, I'm gonna start at the beginning. We do consultations via Zoom, period, dot. We will sometimes do them via phone if you absolutely need to, but before we get on the phone call, we explain to the client, you have to get on a Zoom meeting with us so we can share our screen and show you pictures of the rooms you're gonna stay in, of the experiences you're going to get, and what your money is paying for. So we will not work with clients unless we see them face to face in the virtual world. So every single one of my advisors does these live relationship building consultations. And what we're doing is we're getting to know them. We're getting to understand who they are, what their quirks are. And we go through the full process of, exactly tell me all about the trip. But that process takes maybe 15 minutes. And after they've told us all about what they want and the reasons they're going on the trip and what they're excited to see and do, then we follow it up with, can I tell you a bit about my process? And we always start it by asking, have you ever worked with a travel agent before? And regardless of whether their answer is yes or no, I go into the same, I'm going to tell you about my process because you guys are about to hear it and you may do something completely different. So just because a client's worked with travel agents in the past doesn't mean that they understand how you want to work. And I find that explaining your process helps you stick to it, but it also helps the client understand what is next. So if they don't know what the next steps are, it leaves a lot of uncertainty in their head, and that can lead to frustration. Right. At the end of the day, that's where we want to stop. We want to make sure that there's very good transparency around everything. So we explain, hey, we always do a live consultation. That's what we're doing right now. So we really get to know and understand you. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive deep into the research of the trip. And I'm going to really understand all the best options for the best prices out there. And I'm going to come back. We're going to jump on another Zoom call and I'm going to show you and walk you through the full experience and help you choose the different options that I've chosen and tell you the pros and cons. Once you choose the best thing for you, I'm going to lock it in that day. So if you're not ready to put down a deposit, go ahead and let me know now and we'll kind of push off the proposal until you're ready because prices change, availability changes. Oh, it's brutal when a client gets so excited about a particular room or resort, and then I go to book it because they waited 2 months and it's no longer there, or the price has gone up by $500. So we will not do the proposal until the day that you're ready to book. Once you give me that thumbs up, my job is to lock everything in. And in case you weren't sure, my job is to lock everything in because that's how I get paid. So all of the mass majority of my commission is coming from commission directly from the cruise line or the hotel. It's built in. It doesn't cost you anything extra. If you go to Princess Cruises and book your cruise, it's the same price as if you book through me. They pay me on the back end. So you don't have to worry about that. But what I will say is in order for me to do my research, I actually do charge a non-refundable fee. And for me, that is just making sure that if you no longer want to go on the trip anymore, that I'm able to walk away with some profit because I only get paid if you actually take the trip. So I charge a $245 fee to work with me. As soon as you lock that in, I'll get started and I'll make sure you find the best options out there. Is that kind of the experience you were hoping for today?
Bird, you got me sold already. I'm ready to go on this vacation. Let's go. No, and that's absolutely great. I think kind of tying it into the consultation makes the most sense. And I love how you kind of added it into the end. Because that's the other thing that I had a question about is I've been doing this for 15 years. So I get on discovery calls with every new client and everything. I make sure we talk all about their trip because what I do is I get them hyped up for that trip. I get them so excited that by the time we get into our process and I'm like, okay, let me tell you how we work because you might have worked with another agent, you might have worked by booking on your own and everything, but the way we work is XYZ and we charge a fee, which is the research and design based on everything we talked about. At that point, they're so excited. They're just like, well, naturally, I'm going to pay you to do this because I want to keep this feeling going. But my question is, if I haven't been doing this for 15 years, how do you get that same level of excitement for somebody that kind of starts in this way? Maybe they want to go to Croatia and this advisor knows nothing about Croatia. So they can't be like, let me send you to Plitvice Lake. Let me get you guys onto a private yacht or something like that. Let me do a wall tour of Dubrovnik. You don't know these things. So what do your advisors do starting out to articulate that they need to charge us $245 when they don't have the upfront knowledge, maybe, of where to start?
Oh, I love everything about that question because you should be doing research before you go into the consultation. You should not be doing hours of research. You should be doing roughly 15 minutes. I literally have a little timing cube and I will set an actual timer. So I'm not wasting time, right? I don't know if I'm going to close this deal, but set 15 minutes. And what I'm going to do in that 15 minutes is 10 of those minutes is going to be me researching the client. So if I know them, I'm going to go on Facebook, I'm going to go on Instagram, I'm going to learn everything I can about them and their family. And if their kids play soccer, you better believe I'm bringing up how my kids play soccer. And I'm going to do it subtly so you don't know that I stalked you, right? But I'm going to bond with the client. So you don't necessarily have to know everything about the location in order to still bond with a client and build their trust. Your goal here is to build trust, not necessarily to come across as I know everything there ever was to know about Croatia. The secondary piece of that is take that last 5 minutes, go to ChatGPT and type in, I'm a travel agent. I've never planned a trip to Croatia. This is my very first consultation on it. What should I know about Croatia before I do a consultation with a client? It's going to spit out the best time of year to travel, the biggest highlights, things to do, that sort of thing. Read through that for 5 minutes, have it fresh in your head, jump on the consultation, and immediately start talking about, like, tell me a little bit about your life. Oh, and your kids, that's great. Oh, yeah, I have 2 kids. I actually just dropped them off at a soccer game. I can't believe da 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 da. And then you've bonded. It's super easy if you're intentional. That's the problem is so many people aren't intentional with what they're doing. If you want to be great at sales, you have to be intentional before you're talking to the people and put in the time and work to prepare. If you come in prepared, you could literally know nothing about Croatia. They could just love you and they're going to be like, you're worth, take my money. I think you're great.
No, you're totally right. And honestly, I know we've got a lot to chat about in the hour. Fees, proposals, consultations, we could spend an entire hour on by itself. But getting through the consultation really quick and everything, you've explained your fee, you've done all of that. Let's move into kind of the proposal side. I know we build our proven process to really do more of a deep dive. We've got hours of conversation and articles and blogs and resources all about the best way to go through a consultation, the qualifying questions, all of that. Once you've done all of that, let's talk about the proposal. We're ready to deliver the experience and all of that. I know some people use their CRMs or itinerary builders. Some people send just a manual email, and other people do, like you said, and kind of jump on a video call. Which do you think is the best and why?
Oh, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt here. It's a video call. You know why? Because if I say something and they don't like it, they're not usually going to speak up. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to scrunch up their face and I'm going to be able to see it. And I'm going to know, oh, that didn't hit home like I thought it was going to. Let me pivot as best I can in this other direction, right? So you're watching for their reactions as you're giving the proposal. And you can't do that if you can't see body language. Body language means everything. The other thing that I'm going to say is how many damn times have you gotten on a proposal and all of a sudden the husband just gets up and walks away in the middle of it? Or just isn't paying attention. He's on his phone. I can't know that without seeing him, but I can 1000% see him on a Zoom call and call it out. And I just say, like, David, did you have any questions about this? Or do you want me to stop for a second? I mean, like, every time somebody walks away, I go, I'm going to stop until all of our decision makers are here because I think it's important they hear this next point. And I mean, could be like nothing, but I'm laying my boundary of this is important to me. And if it's not important to you, I'm not going to waste my own damn time doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's kind of a way to get them to re-engage in everything. And I'd love to say, why is it got to be the husband? But I literally just had the same problem last week, so I totally get it.
I'm not being sexist, I'm being honest. But I would also say the proposal is this beautiful time for you to continue to build your value too. So if you have other people that help you, if you have an admin or a pre-departure team. So at Sava Travel, that's like our biggest thing that we focus on is I have an admin that basically goes in and they talk to my clients. Well, I don't want my client to be surprised by this after the fact. So in the proposal, I usually bring up, hey, you're going to talk to my admin, Flores. She's going to take over after I do the main booking. So if you have questions about the destination or dress code or dinner reservations, Flora is going to handle all of that for you. And then right before you leave, my pre-departure team is going to recheck every single detail of the trip. Honestly, I've been known to miss a detail or two, and it's so nice to have two full sets of eyes on every single component of my trip at all times. And Flora is kind of my third set of eyes in there. So your trip will always run absolutely smoothly. If you have those kind of players in your game, which if you don't, you should, because you do make mistakes, whether or not you want to admit it out loud, you should have those people in your game. And if you have those players, well, that's value to the client. And clients don't understand that travel agents do it all. They don't understand how hard of a job this really is at the end of the day. So simply by explaining your other team members, I think it just leads them to go like, oh, wow, this is real. She absolutely is an expert and a real professional, right? So even if they've already paid the fee, they haven't necessarily locked it in, or they haven't necessarily come to believe that this is the best option for the best price. And those are the things that'll kind of help you get there.
No, and I love that you brought up the options and the price and all that. So one of the greatest things about kind of doing that video call is, like you said, number one, making sure that you have that re-engagement and everything. You're not just sending an email, hoping that you're hitting right and everything, because what you really want to do with your proposal is you want to get the clients to feel like they are helping in the decision-making process and you're working on this together. It becomes a joint thing. Bert, I know one of the things that you mentioned in our proven process when we talked about all of that is you like to do option A, and then you give option B and you compare option A and B and kind of see how they're doing with that before offering option C, which we're not going past 3 options because I don't want to give you 20 different ideas. We are not working together to be Google. I am the travel advisor and I need you to understand that I chose these options based on what we talked about in the consultation. And this is where we're moving into a decision. We're not just having options to review or going shopping later and all that stuff. It is option A or option B. This is why I've selected these. Once you choose this option, I will show you option C, and now we're comparing these 2 options, but this option is no longer on the table because you've already said it's not hitting what it needs to. Now, maybe in the conversation you're having, option A, B, and C are way off because you just didn't do enough qualifying in the consultation. You didn't figure out exactly what it was they needed. Maybe the budget was too high. It wasn't in the city location they wanted. Maybe they just, I don't know, didn't land well at all. Whatever the reason is, kind of having 3 options really should be the primary and should be all that you have to deliver. If you guys are offering 9 different options, they don't like them, they want to go back to the drawing board, maybe they're now going to a different destination and all of that, you need to, in your consultation, get your clients to go exactly where you need them to go. Because if not, you're going to be searching. Honestly, I just had a client that was looking for either the Philippines, Egypt, or Bonaire for diving. And he was like, well, I'm open to all 3 of these. And I was like, great, I'm not going to do the work on 3 totally different destinations. We need to figure out why and where. And then it came down to, well, I don't want to take a flight that's 30 hours long. I don't want to spend $3,000 for a flight on economy. So it was able to narrow down to where we needed to. And you need to do that in the consultation. But Bird, in the proposal, what would you say a lot of clients kind of fall off during the proposal process, even after a good consultation?
Well, I really love that you kind of put it back in the travel agent's corner. If you're not closing deals and you don't have a really good close rate and you're frustrated, you need to take a look in the mirror. It's probably something that you're doing in your process. It's not something wrong with you. It's something you're doing in your process that is not getting the client to believe that, again, there's, I'm going to nerd out on sales for a second here, but there are 2 reasons that people walk away from sales, and there are only 2. It is that best option and best value, not necessarily price, best value, right? Those are the only reasons people walk away from a sale. If they don't believe that they have both of those, they will not book with you at the end of the day. And the other part of that is really making sure that the client is excited. And I love that you kind of mentioned earlier, like, oh, I'm the cheerleader basically for the client. You know, I'm the rah rah shush boom ba. And why it's a little silly, it is absolutely true. If you're excited when you're presenting, they're going to get excited to purchase. Like I said before, I'm a real big proponent of explaining to them that I won't give a proposal until you're ready to book. So when I'm giving the proposal, I'm continuously talking about booking that day. All right, so when we do this, this is what we're going to do. Da, da, da. Okay, what's the best option? And there's one more thing I want to point on here. If you're doing Caribbean, if you're doing cruises, if you're doing all inclusives, and it's pretty straightforward, that's where the 3 options comes in. If you're doing an FIT across Europe, I would not do 3 options for every city. So let's say they're doing Rome, Florence, Venice. I would almost always have at least 2 options for the first city and maybe 2 options for one of the other cities. You might say, in Florence, you guys, I'm telling you, this is where you want to stay. This is perfect for you. Okay, now let's get to Venice and tell that story, right? And so you want to have some options there, but if you did 3 options for every city, number one, your proposal would take an hour and a half. They should take about 30 minutes. And then at the end of it, the idea is truly you lock it in that day. So if they're walking away saying, well, we need to talk it over. Absolutely. Tell me a little bit more about what you weren't sure of so I can make sure that I truly did pick the best options for you. You want some more of that feedback, right? Or if you hear the dreaded, I need to talk it over with my husband because the husband wasn't on the call, that's again, you need to look in a mirror. You were not strict enough about your process that all the makers need to be on the proposal. That's the way to close the deal. And we closed 9 out of 10 of our deals on that day. Like you got to set some urgency and you got to set some expectations and you got to lay down your boundaries. This is how we do it, period. Dot.
You're absolutely right. And it can't be something where people are just reaching out to get ideas because, guys, we're not Google. This is not how we get paid. We only get paid by either our fees or actually closing that sale and everything. So I know we're coming up towards the top of the hour. Bird, going back to fees really quick. If we're talking to new advisors on the call, they've never booked anything or anything, what is one way that they can start building confidence to start truly charging a fee right out the gate?
I mean, the biggest thing that's going to build confidence is success. So I think you just need to try it and try it at a low enough price point that you truly feel like you're worth it. So sit down, take out a journal, and try and figure out what you believe you're worth for a trip. And if that price point is $5, that's okay. We all start somewhere, right? And I think the reality of the matter is the first success you have and the first time you swipe that credit card for $5, you're going to be like, damn, that wasn't that hard. Let me try it again. And if you try it again, but the idea cannot be, I'm going to try it on this trip, but not this one, and this one, but not this one. And only when I feel super confident or only when they have a $20,000 budget. You can't do that to yourself. You just have to say, my process has now changed and this is how it's different.
Dive into it and stick in. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so I would say on the mid-level tier, if we have advisors that are watching that have been around for maybe 2 to 5 years, maybe they're booking a couple $100,000 a year in sales and everything. If they want to move from that free to fee space, what would you tell them? Kind of same thing or otherwise?
No, I think it's the same for everybody. Going from free and advertising free all the time, there's nothing dramatically wrong about it, except you don't see a lot of realtors saying, I'm going to waive my commission, right? You don't see a lot of lawyers saying, I don't work on fees. You don't see a lot of accountants doing it. And the reality is, our industry doesn't garner a lot of respect. And if we want to change that as a team, as a group of professionals, we all kind of need to stick to it. So I think if you're going to not charge a fee in the beginning, fine, but maybe we don't advertise it as much. Maybe we go out and just say like, look, I have a lot of value in working with me. Like, why would you say something's free? People inherently believe free doesn't mean it's valuable. So why not say, hey, come to a consultation with me. This is the value you're going to get out of that consultation. What I like to do is to explain to people, tell them that they're going to learn some fun facts about the destination. They're going to be better prepared for the best time to go to that destination. And I'm going to give them a few of my secrets for the best tours to go there. If you want to book with me, great. If you don't, that's absolutely okay. I just love talking travel. Can we get on a call?
I love that. And
Safety.
I love the idea of even starting if you're brand new or trying to get to that point, do mock clients, like work with friends and family. Just be like, let me build a custom bucket list itinerary for you. Normally for this kind of trip, I would charge $50 per person. But of course, because I'm playing around, I'm just going to waive it and see how this goes. It gets you also in the habit of articulating that fee, going through the entire process and seeing what that's like too. So, Bird, I know again we've talked new, we've talked semi-experienced or so. What about the people who've been doing this for 10, 15 years and have never charged a fee and are starting to feel that burnout or that, I really wish? What would you say to them? How would they move into this model?
There's a lot of ways to cure burnout. It doesn't have to be this. And if you found success in what you're doing, maybe you're thinking something different for curing your burnout. Maybe you're finding some fill my cup moments and I take off every Friday at 2 p.m. and I go and hang out and I go hiking for 2 hours, whatever it looks like. So if you're in a moment of success, I don't want you to take anything I've said today as a slight towards you. If you don't charge fees, that's on you. That's absolutely fine. But if you're finding that, yeah, I've been doing this for 15 years and it's not working anymore, there's no reason that you can't change your process. I think longevity does not necessarily mean this is how it goes on forever. In fact, the businesses that refuse to change are often the ones that end up failing. So I think it's very easy to say, hey, the industry's changed a lot in 15 years, 25 years, whatever it is. And the reality is, I need to change with it. So, why don't you explain and educate your clients? Hey, we used to make 10% on flights. Can you believe that? Now we don't make a dime on flights. And over the years, just commissions have gotten squeezed more and more. So, I need to implement a fee in order to continue my practice. The fee is going to be pretty low per trip. It's da 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 da, and kind of move into that. But if you've been doing this for a while, you're going to have to change from salesperson to educator. And if you can find a way for your clients to say, yeah, no, that makes sense. You deserve that. I want you to stay in this business because you love it and you have passion and you're great at this. Like you want them to always be like, hell yeah, I want to give you $200.
No, it's true. And I would say too, Bird, one of the things is like if you are an experienced agent or even newer, I have some friends that are like, I just don't feel comfortable charging a fee up front. However, they will charge a modification fee, they will charge a cancellation fee, they will charge a concierge fee that if you want me to give you restaurant recommendations and all this other stuff, you're going to pay XYZ above and beyond the itinerary build out and stuff. There's so many ways that you can move into a fee space without being an upfront agency fee that you need to charge before even moving forward with a client. That could kind of be a soft thing. Like, guys, at the end of the day, most people are used to my deposit is non-refundable. I am going to lose money if I do not go on this trip or if I have to cancel for some reason. There's no reason travel advisors can't charge those same similar fees that if I got to pick up the phone and call the airline or the cruise line or the hotel to make a modification for your reservation, I'm going to be compensated $25, $50 per modification. So then it's like, you know what? I won't charge you up front. And as long as you're cool and you do your online check-ins and get your excursions done and all that stuff, you'll never be charged from me. But if you want me to spend my hours sitting on the phone and doing all these things, I do need to be compensated for that time. So these are different ways that you could look into moving into a fee structure without it being upfront.
Can I also give you one more softball if you're still feeling a little scared? We do a cancellation fee of $200 per person. I believe in it dramatically. And if you are one that sells travel insurance to most of your clients, just remember that that cancellation fee from you is covered by travel insurance. So whenever you go to book the travel insurance, make sure that you're booking the amount plus your non-refundable fee. So if I have 2 people on my trip, I'm adding $400 to the total amount insured. And then if they cancel, I claim my $400. And at the very least, I'm getting that and they get it back, right? So I explained, yes, we'll absolutely cancel your trip. I'm so sorry you're not going anymore. By the way, according to our terms and conditions, which you signed, it's a $200 per person cancellation fee. I'm going to charge that to the credit card we have on file today. However, that's covered by the insurance policy you have through Allianz or Traveled Insured or whatever. And they're usually like, okay. And I usually will throw in the extra just so you know I actually will not make any of my commission because you canceled. So if it's coming from a place of education where you're explaining to them this is how it works. Now we charge it regardless of them getting travel insurance. That's not my problem. That's your problem. But if you're feeling you need a softball, there is one there.
I love that. And honestly, I'm glad you brought that up. Make sure, guys, you do include your fees in your terms and conditions, and also check with your insurance company because sometimes they say cancellations are not covered if the money has not been prepaid and stuff. So just make sure you talk about those nuances with your preferred travel insurance company and all that. And make sure if you're booking supplier insurance, it typically does not cover for any fees and stuff. So just make sure to cover yourself accordingly. Bird, I know we're top of the hour right now. Just really quick, we talked proposals, we talked fees. What would you say the most common objection is in the proposal process or with fees or anything?
I mean, if somebody is objecting against fees, it's almost always that they're working with another travel agent or they're just not really committed to the trip. Those are both people you don't really want to work with at the end of the day. So it's not going to hurt you to walk away from those trips. And it's going to open up space in your day to focus on getting more people. So if you find yourself twiddling your thumbs and you're like, oh, I just want to say I do it for free so I can get more people in the door, why not just be more targeted? Take that time and reach out to people and direct text message everyone in your network. And I don't like to directly ask for business. So I always ask, like, do you know anyone that would be interested in working with me? Like, that's a way easier ask for people. So take the time that you're feeling bored and frustrated and instead use it to be proactive in your business. You get such a better outcome doing that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Bird. You've been an absolute wealth of knowledge. We do have a trade show coming up. I hope you guys had an amazing expo experience. We look forward to doing this again with all of you guys. And Bird, thank you again for everything you had to offer today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. See you guys.